Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Current. I'm really excited to have all of you here. The Current is a weekly event put on by Charlotte New Music where we bring fresh and new music to your living room. For as long as we can't meet in person, we've been doing this online, and it's been a really nice way to continue the concert tradition in a kind of unorthodox way, but also connect to a wider audience and also bring in performers who may not usually get the opportunity to perform with us in person. So my name's Treya Nash, and I'll be your host for this evening. I'm a composer from the UK, as you might have guessed, but I'm based in North Carolina, and I just graduated with my master's degree from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. I'm really, really excited about the lineup that we have for you tonight. We have three awesome performers who I think you're really going to enjoy. Suzanne Polak, Tyson, and Andy Hudson. So first we have Suzanne, and I'll just introduce her a little bit. Hi, Suzanne.
Hello.
So Suzanne is a really, really versatile composer and performer, and she's done a bunch of work with some great symphony orchestras, including the Pittsburgh Symphony, the Virginia Symphony, and the North Carolina Symphony. She's also just worked in a bunch of different scenarios, including with operas, musicals, theater, and dance, and as a soloist and in small ensembles. And as a composer, she's received a bunch of commissions. And she's also just a really great person to work with. I would highly recommend, if you ever get the opportunity to work with her, that you would take it, because she's an amazing collaborator and a really fantastic solo pianist and composer as well. How are you doing, Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. After that intro, I'm like, whoa.
So, yeah, what have you been working on lately?
Mostly, actually, I just graduated as well, so I've been filling out a lot of job applications, and some of them require that you have to know certain repertoire, which is good because it gives me something to work on just in case. And I
Yes.
picked up
So,
I was gonna say I picked up some solo rep too, which as a collaborative pianist, I don't get to play so much solo all the time, so it's fun.
that sounds great. So you've mostly been practicing?
Not as much as I should have. I would say that I've been managing practicing some days and composing some days, and then there were TV shows from like in the mid 2010s that I never got to finish, so I finished them all. I know all the plots
Understandable.
now.
Yeah. So what have you been working on with your composing?
With that, I have just been doing some like things I've thought about. For example, UNCG has an amazing cellist. Like anybody out there want to write for cellist, go talk to UNCG. They have a brand new one. It's beautiful. So I've been writing a piece for soprano saxophone and cellist. And I've just never had the time to do that, so that's been fun. I also have a commission for English horn sonata, which I don't know the English horn so well, so that's been good for me.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and I can't wait to hear those pieces. Um, so the pieces that you're going to play today, they're your own pieces, right?
Yes, correct. I'm going to play. So my recital, like so many others, became totally done on Zoom because it was scheduled for April. And because of that fact, all my compositions that involved huger ensembles were scrapped. And then, as we both know, our professor was like, write something right now. So I wrote three preludes. I'm going to play two of them this evening. The second prelude is very dark, which is really not like me, but I think that's how I was feeling when I wasn't allowed to go back to school. And then the third is a little bit more active, and they're both exploring major and minor colors and how one goes so quickly to the other. So
Sounds great. And is there anything else that we should listen out for while we're listening to your music?
Uh, not really. Both of my pieces have a theme that is pretty grabbable because they're both shorter. The second one in particular, you'll catch on really quick that it's like this two note motif, and I just kind of hammer it in because it's just agony. And then the third one is more like a faster, I wish I was Stravinsky esque, but it's enjoyable, and I like to just, like I said, mess around with the faster color, I guess, that I can get.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right. I hope you all enjoy.
Thank
That
you so
was
much, Suzanne. That was awesome. Yeah, great job. I really like the second piece is just so energetic, and I think it's really. I know that you said that it's kind of like a dark piece for you, but I don't know. Like, it's still quite joyful.
yeah. It
Um,
has more life now that I've gotten to be friends with it more, I guess. To me.
yeah. But yeah, so I just wanted to ask quickly about whether you feel like your compositional process for piano is different than for other instruments because you know piano like so well.
Actually, I really struggle writing for my own instrument because I'm so critical. So in particular to the last prelude, the fast one, I reworked some things because I found them awkward. But then when I made like a new idea I liked, it was awkward in a new way. And I'm trying to write things that I think. I mean, there's so much piano music, and so definitely I'm trying to find my own sound and trying to find things that I find unique without them being so non-pianistic. So I'm just very critical, and sometimes it takes me a lot longer to do it than it does for any other instrument.
Yeah, that's understandable. But you know, I always really enjoy your piano work, and it just feels very idiomatic and feels very effortless, even though I know it's not. But you
No.
know, that's how it sounds when you play it because you do such a convincing job. So yeah, thank you so much, Suzanne. It
Oh,
was
my
really great
pleasure.
to have you.
I'm looking forward to everyone else too. This is awesome.
Yes,
I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Charlotte New Music.
yes, thank you. All right, so our next performer is Tyler Tyson, who he releases music under the name More Pluto. His Bandcamp will be dropped in the chat, so you'll be able to go take a look at his music. So he's a multi-instrumentalist, a composer, a producer, and poet from Pittsburgh, NC. He's a classically trained oboist. His music has influences from funk, hip hop, psychedelic electronica, new age, as well as classical influences, just to name a few. Um, and he's been a very active figure in the Greensboro music scene. So yeah, performing both as a solo act and also with other groups. So hi Tyler, are you there?
Hey, hey, how's it going?
It's good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. So can you tell me what you've been working on lately?
Um, uh, I've been trying to study a lot,
What
like
are you
different, like
studying?
different, like countries,
Oh yeah,
like France and Ethiopia.
just like generally looking into politics or
Politics? No, looking into like sounds that they
oh,
use. Yeah.
okay. How's that going?
Um, it's okay. Can I shout out some people?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I want to shout out Darrell. I want to shout out Ty. I want to shout out Little Kawhi and Benji and Sunny Banks and Xavier. Okay, that's all.
That's all.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, so you're going to be doing some improvisation for us, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about your improvisational process and how that works for you?
Um. Well, like I start with like a motif, and then I'll like elaborate on it like it was like a character moving through a story, with like things like surrounding it, and sometimes like I'll take it somewhere else maybe with the story, and then like changing like key centers maybe, or like scale maybe I could like, or like base it off of a scale or something, and then maybe return to the theme and do something else. I don't know.
So just kind of like start with a structure and then see where it takes you.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you're trying to create a certain atmosphere when you improvise, or are you just kind of like uh, going with the flow?
I would say it's like going with the flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just see what comes up.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really excited to see what happens. Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Okay. Do I start now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, that is all.
Thank you so much. That was
Yep.
great.
Cool.
Um, so yeah, I really loved watching like how playful you seemed while you were improvising. Do you find it to be like a playful activity?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you make your other music, like the music that you release, would you say that that takes elements of your improvisation into it as well?
Definitely. It definitely helps having a drum player playing, keep the
Yeah.
beat. Yeah. Hmm.
And how have things been for you given I know how much you used to perform live before everything happened. So it must be, you know, quite a big change for you given everything that's going on.
Yeah, I would say so.
So how do you think that's affected like your kind of creative output?
I feel like I have to write newer things more often to like, because of like, I feel like short attention spans are prevalent a lot of the time, especially like on a phone. So if I like create something often, um, I feel like it would like help catch people's attention more. Yeah.
Right, because everyone's
Mhm.
kind of stuck inside, just, you know, scrolling. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I've been guilty.
I think we all have.
Yeah.
And do you think that's like changing the kind of things that you're writing, or just like, yeah,
Kinda. I think. Yeah, I would say it shifted more to like electronics versus acoustic instruments. Hmm.
yeah, because it's easier to kind of build your own stuff by yourself if you're using various programs and you don't have
Yes.
access to working with people like you did before. Um, but yeah, you know, like it's really good that you have the skills and abilities to do that. You know, as a producer, to make your own stuff and make it so engaging as well. Um, you know, so yeah, are you coming out with anything new anytime soon?
I have a mixtape that I'm dropping on SoundCloud. Not SoundCloud,
Oh,
Spotify. It's gonna be on Spotify
oh, great.
and Apple Music.
Oh, awesome.
It's called Word to the Mothership.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really exciting. When's that coming out? Oh, you said Saturday?
No, September 17th.
September 17th.
That's my
Okay.
birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tyler, for coming
Thanks.
on.
Yeah.
It's a real privilege to have you.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay.
All right. Before we move on to our final guest of the evening, for anyone who's watching, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube or um, on Zoom with us, we just like you to consider making a small donation. I think we're going to have a screen up in a second with the ways that you can make a donation. Yeah, there we go. Just to help keep this going, because you know we really enjoy doing it, and yeah, it would just help us to continue doing it. And anything that you donate is going to be split between the artists performing and the people who are running it. So yeah, consider donating to our Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. Um, And yeah, as you can see, the links are up there. And so yeah, just if you can donate anything small, that would really help us out. Thanks. All right, so our third and final guest of the evening is Andy Hudson. Are you here, Andy?
Hello, hi, how are you?
Hi. How's it going?
It's good, all things considered, you know?
Yeah. Great. So what have you? Oh, sorry, I haven't like introduced you whatsoever. Everybody, this is Andy Hudson. He is a fantastic performer and educator and collaborator. Uh, he has had, he's recognized for performing modern music, especially modern and contemporary music. And he's premiered and commissioned lots of contemporary works and has performed with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, with their Music Now series, the New Music Gathering, and with the Ensemble Dal Niente, not to mention numerous other performances. And he is currently the Associate Professor of Clarinet at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. So yeah, welcome, Andy. It's great to have you.
Yeah, it's fun to be with you all. So great to hear Suzanne and Tyler, just inspiring. Great to be in
Yeah,
such good company.
yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, what have you been working on lately? What have you been up to?
It's been an interesting time. Certainly creatively, I feel like, yeah, I've spent a little time in the worlds that Suzanne and Tyler brought up where I'm really drawn to new things, towards improvisation. I've been playing a lot of electric guitar at home. I just bought a new amp, which has been really fun, and plugging my guitars and also my clarinets into that has been really rewarding. I've been also revisiting music I love. I seem to be pulled sometimes toward new music that I've never played, and then sometimes toward reimagining music I love and seeing what that music means to me today in the year 2020 when things are so different than when I first encountered a lot of this music. So like the pieces I'm playing tonight, for example, are pieces I've played for a long time by people I love, and revisiting them in the midst of the quarantine and the present global hardship and the racial unrest in the world and the sort of beginnings of dismantling systemic systems of injustice. It's all sort of like changing the way I view the art that I've always played, and so it's been interesting to revisit these places that are once familiar but also sort of feel new. So a lot of my time has been sort of just figuring out like what is the music saying about me now, because it feels different, you know. Everything feels weird and unsettled. And other than that, I've just been gardening.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because I feel like, even though pieces stay the same, because you change as a performer, what you're bringing to the piece changes as well, and kind of like how you interact with it, despite the notes on the page staying where they are, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the art's interpreting me, honestly. I mean, I'm the one that's sort of changing the meanings I have rather than the music.
So, the two pieces that you're playing tonight, the first one, you premiered that piece, right?
I did. I had the honor to premiere this piece back in 2018 at the Tennessee Valley Music Festival, which is in Huntsville, Alabama. I've taught there now. I just finished my first virtual season, of course, but 11 summers I've been at TVMF, and it's a place where we play a lot of great orchestral rep, but every year they feature young composers, orchestral works. They do a lot of chamber music, contemporary music. And when I had the chance to premiere this piece, I'd worked with Lita on the piece, and I kind of knew I wanted to share it there, partially because of the nature of the music, which I might talk about in a minute. But yeah, it was so special to share this piece that I love by Lita, whom I love, in a place that's really dear to me and feels like home. So yeah, I really believe in Lita Fink's compositional voice and just her as a performer and a human being. And yeah, I think everybody should play Lita's music.
So, can you tell us a bit more about the piece itself?
Yeah, so I met Lita Fink in 2016 at the Bang on a Can festival, we had the chance to work together a little bit, got to know each other. And she is such a special performer. She's an incredible violinist, a vocalist. She's in string quartet, and she's a duo, and she now is based in New York. Previously was at Peabody. And Lita grew up in North Carolina. And when I premiered this piece, when I heard this piece the first time, Lita had written this work, and nobody had ever performed it. And the work is for any low-sounding reed instrument. And when I met Lita, we played together in a group called Ear Space, which is based out in Raleigh. And we hit it off. We talked about music, and we reconnected after years of meeting at Bang. And I said to her, "What have you written for bass clarinet?" And she said, "Oh, nothing." And then she said, "Well, I did write this one piece, but I didn't think it was any good, so I put it away. But then I recently pulled it back out and finished it, and it's never been played." And I said, "I'd be so honored to work with you on it." The piece is called If I Were Only Halfway Home. Lita grew up in North Carolina, in Boone, near Boone, sort of near the Blue Ridge Mountains. I was just out in Boone last weekend doing some hiking, and Lita is a fiddle player and a singer, and this piece is inspired by some of the fiddle rhythms and the vocal Appalachian vocal stylings that she grew up listening to and also performing. The work for me is sort of what Tolkien says about humanity, that we're all like soaked with exile, that we all sort of feel this disenfranchisement, that we look around the world and nothing is as it should be, and that we sort of long for a home that we've never really known, or that we look around the world and feel like this place was supposed to be different, but it isn't what it could be. And so this piece has always meant a lot to me, but especially now when I look at the world and the sort of brokenness of the world is just front and center, both physically, but also, emotionally, and there's just so much pain and so much hurt that's been inflicted, that this piece for me now is sort of more somber than it used to be. It kind of makes me nostalgic for like the world as it should have been, but we never got there. And so throughout the work, you're going to hear these different sort of free, almost improvisatory sounding sections that are met with then this alternating groove. A few times I'll actually vocalize along with the clarinet to capture some of the sort of tension and pain in the sound. And yeah, I think the work is really interesting. It sort of moves through these moods, sort of different ways of looking at the same situation. And honestly, at the end of the piece, I'm not sure that Lita takes us to a place of full resolution or full healing. I feel like the work sort of ends by crying forward, like, now that we're aware of what home could be, what are we going to do to get closer than just halfway? So the piece is called If I Were Only Halfway Home, and I'm really excited to share it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. I love that last pitch. It's just like so, it was so piercing. And I really enjoyed the way that the mood just completely shifts in that piece. Like the way that it starts, just like it ends in a totally different place, but it doesn't feel abrupt. It's very kind of continuous, and I found myself kind of realizing that I was in a different place than where I'd started, and I was like, oh, okay, like I got here.
Yeah.
And it was almost like hard to tell that it was happening while it was happening. But yeah,
Yeah,
really
it's
great
like sad
piece.
sad people dance too, you know?
Yeah, really great energy. So the next piece that you're playing is Eric Manda, right?
Yes.
That's very exciting. So, can you tell us a bit about the piece and maybe some of the extended techniques that you're going to be doing? Because I know that Eric Manda is a force in clarinet composition, especially regarding extended techniques.
He is. I met Eric for the first time in 2007, right after I'd kind of had this contemporary music awakening. I remember at the end of my freshman year, I heard a piece by Lee Hyla called We Speak Etruscan for bass clarinet and bass saxophone, and it changed my life. And the next fall, I met Eric. He'd come to my undergraduate at Columbus State University in Georgia, and I remember he played two concerts back-to-back nights. And the first night, he played like kind of a traditional program, nothing he'd written, with a great pianist, and the room was maybe half full, with big hall. I mean, it was a good turnout. and he played so beautifully that the next night it was full, and he played all music he'd written, and it was all very contemporary with lots of extended techniques, and nobody was worse off for it because he's such a sort of a polymath in music. Eric wrote his doctoral dissertation at Eastman in the 80s, a piece called Folk Songs, that many people sort of view as the inauguration of contemporary clarinet writing as we know it. He built on the legacy, certainly, of William O. Smith and Berrio and others who'd come before him, Morton Subotnick. But what Eric does uniquely well is he writes extended techniques in a way that is musical and also intelligible. Like, I've never played a Mandat piece for an audience and not have them resonate, and that includes concerts in retirement homes and children's concerts and everything in between. And a lot of that, I think, is that Eric takes such care with the effects that they always serve the musical narrative. They're never just there to be an effect. And this piece, I'm going to play just the first movement of Subterranes or Stratospheres, which he wrote in 1996. This work was written for a friend of mine, Robert Spring, and Bob is a clarinetist of the highest order, and he can do literally anything. And so when Eric was going to write for him, Bob kind of said, do your worst. And so he did. And so he wrote all these effects that were just taking stuff that Robert Spring could do and pushing it up a notch. So the first thing you're going to hear in this piece is Eric's going to use a quarter tone fingering to sort of approximate the sound of an end-blown flute. Not to be confused with the times that Eric actually has you play your clarinet like an end-blown flute. But in this case, you're going to just approximate it. And so he has this incredible sound, which might call to mind like a recorder or shakuhachi playing. And then he uses these quarter tones to sort of capture like the swell of like the sweep of a recorder spectrum, So you're going to hear a lot of those sounds, a lot of breath sounds, a lot of glissandi that happens slowly like a train sort of in the distance, which I just love. And then he's going to start to introduce multiphonics, at first very gently with a trill, and then more piercingly. So you're going to hear all these different colors, and the way he weaves them together is just masterful. And then he's going to let the music evolve into this kind of groove-based section where he's notated portions of the groove that have sort of fallen out, and you're going to slowly add them back in. And the whole time, he initially has you use interruptive, loud breaths, and then he has you pivot towards circular breathing, which is where you bring in the air through the nose while you're still making sound with the mouth. Now, breathing while you're playing is not so hard for maybe pianists and violinists, but for the clarinet, it's very impressive to take in air while you expel air, because you're sort of undoing the way the body is meant to work. But it allows for the incredible building of tension, and you're going to see that the music starts to spin out of control, basically. And the music begins on the lowest pitches of the clarinet and works its way towards some of the highest pitches in this movement. Additionally, you're going to hear a tiny bit of, at the end of the movement, he sort of foreshadows the next section. You'll hear a little bit of multiple articulation. So it's basically like you're using the tongue in a new way to create faster notes than are normally possible. Actually, we're not going to play this movement, but I do have to mention that in the second movement, he has this incredible effect where he uses the fingers as a backbeat. So I just feel like I have to show you that because I just want the world to know.
Please
so basically,
do.
as you play this. So you basically are playing this backbeat to all the music, which is so incredible. Then he starts to fill in the missing pieces again. So he's a music theory genius, and he's an incredibly great human being. And his contribution to the clarinet world cannot be overstated. Not only from his composing, but he's an incredible teacher at Southern Illinois Carbondale. He's been there almost 30 years, and his students have played in the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra and also gone into contemporary playing like him and been professors, and they've played in army bands, and he's shaped the thinking on what's possible on the clarinet. And what I love about Eric is that he's never stopped being curious. Like Copeland late in his life when he started to experiment with different sounds, Eric is now writing with electronics. He has a motion capture system where he triggers effects with his body movements, just to see what else might be possible. Because for him, it's all about how can this instrument arrive at its truest self. So this piece, Subterranes or Stratospheres, the first movement, subtrains, you're going to hear these sort of subterranean sounds, but then he also gently uses like sort of the train in the distance sound, which is one of his favorite effects he uses in a lot of his music. And part of that is because there's a train that runs through Carbondale, and so he would hear it often from his office. And so a lot of his pieces have this train in them.
That's
and
great.
So it's really fun to share it. So all that to say, I'm going to play the first movement of this piece that I love by Eric Mandat, whom I love, and I'm really, really hope that everybody enjoys it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's do it.
Wow, that piece is just it's incredible. It just it's so engaging. It's so intense to watch you play it, and it sounds so intense at the same time. And you know, it's just really it's very captivating. The sounds are there's some really delicate, intricate sounds that are so beautiful, and then just some really harsh sounds and some really rhythmic stuff. But all of it feels like so purposeful, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Thanks for
really,
letting me
really
play
great.
it.
Yeah, thanks for playing it. Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on. It was a real pleasure to have you. And I really enjoyed both those pieces and the diversity of them. So, yeah, and thank you so much to everyone watching, and a really big thank you to all of the performers who played tonight, Suzanne, Tyler, and Andy. It was really great having you all. Um, so yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I really hope that you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.